All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning, our August National Member Meeting. I see a lot of familiar faces and one new one. So welcome everyone. I'm sure we'll have some people coming in, but as we do first, we'll go around and do a little round robin and introduce everyone. I'm really excited. I just have right here, I put the final editing touches on the manuscript. If you don't know, NAIPC is publishing a book called Aging in Place Conversations, What Industry Experts Have to Say. Lots of the experts are on this call right now, but it's going to be a great book. I'm really excited to share it with you, and we should have a rough draft of the book cover by Friday. I have mentioned our guest speaker today in this book because I absolutely love her app, and I know she's going to have a lot to share with you later, but we'll go ahead and do a round robin and let everyone introduce themselves. In addition to what you do, why don't you, going along the theme of our book, if you feel like it, share what your most common asked question is from older adults or families that call you. What is your number one question? So I will start to the person to the right of me, which is Stacy. Hi, Stacy. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I might be that new face, or at least
You
one of
are.
them. Thanks for having me. My name is Stacy Kibble. I've built my career helping to build startups in tech, mostly in health and wellness. But most recently have found myself personally in a caregiver role for the second time in my life, first for my grandparents some years ago, now for my parents and my father who has Alzheimer's. And it's really sort of shifted my thinking a bit to think about, do I also potentially make a career pivot into this kind of ecosystem of services to serve this population? Just because I see how much my family has been impacted and how much opportunity there is for primarily my father and my mom and for all of us to live better. So I'm here today to kind of see, listen, learn. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. I think a lot of the people on this call are in this world because of a personal relationship with someone and then just fell in love with it. So welcome. We'll move on to Peter. Hi, Peter, over in Texas. How's it going?
Tara.
I'm ready for your joke. What's the joke of the day?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
But for the serious side, I'm Peter Klampkin. I am a member of the board of the NAIPC and also have been in the reverse mortgage business for 16 years. So that's my passion, is helping seniors financially have a better life and age in place. And I say this all the time. It started, as Tara just said, it started with a personal situation. In my case, my parents outlived their money at age 83, and by accessing the equity in their home, my father lived to be 96 and was able to live comfortably financially. So it matters from that standpoint. As far as the book goes, I've had a number of chapters or contributions that were about loneliness, hospice, reverse mortgages, and funeral planning, which makes me just a ball of fun at parties. So, but again, I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the NAIPC and the fact that all of us are dedicated to helping seniors age in place. So thank you, Tara.
Well, thank you. I think one of my favorite Peter jokes was about cold calling and when you were in the funeral industry. Yes. Don't know why that always makes me laugh.
Well, but the point is that after that, you have no fear for anything, you know.
Right. So. All right. So we'll move on that note. We'll move on to Deanne over in Las Vegas. I bet it's scorching there today because it's hot in California.
Yeah, we've got humidity and we've had it for weeks now. This is a very strange summer. It's not the seniors aren't liking it too well either. Not used to it. They moved here to get away from that. So I'm Deanna Rear-Cameron, and I too am a board member of the national and also the Southern Nevada chapter, which we're re-kicking off. And I am a senior advocate. That's probably the easiest way to just sum it up, because I'm all things senior, and being the chairperson for the city of Las Vegas over the seniors here. My most asked question in recent times is housing. How are we going to deal with all these rate increases, and is it in our best interest to sell our house or to do, something like what Peter does, or, whatever have you. That's our biggest one right now. But as far as my advocacy goes, there's really nothing I don't handle when it comes to seniors. And I mean, even things like last night, I met Hall of Famer Joe Cortez, boxing, and found out that he has 2 of the assisted livings that I refer to. I didn't even realize they were his. So I want to make sure and bring him into Aging in Place, maybe even speak. You'll all get a big kick out of him. He's 79. And it's just things like that that fill my days and fill my world with seniors. So I'm blessed to be here. And I look forward to getting to know everybody even more.
Great, thank you. We are looking for a celebrity to endorse our book if you think
Ooh,
you'd be interested.
I'm on his podcast tomorrow, so I will talk to him and his engineer about that tomorrow.
Ooh, lovely, perfect, thank you. All right, we'll move over to Scott Fulton. Scott, how's it going today? And his new Aging in Place home.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Fulton. I wear many hats on any given day. I'm chair of NAIPC. So know many of you already through that. And then in my work, I wear a couple of more hats. Those ones there are really designing aging in place spaces for what I call the proactive clients who are really interested in saying, we're at the start of retirement. We don't want the leftovers. We want the best at the start. How should we do that? Setting out. And so that's really the work that I do. And so I'm partly a thought partner with people and families, and there's family negotiations and all of those. And that for me is actually probably more fun than the design aspects. Partners never want the same thing, you discover, and sometimes they discover in the conversation. And then the other part of my work is I do a lot of work around health and longevity. So it's all kind of all summed up around aging in place, around like, how can you make a sustainable aging in place solution from the start that gets you the outcomes you want at the end. So that's where I get to spend my time, lots of research. And so I get to interact with just a whole cross section of people. And so everywhere I can meet people, I'm always excited to get engaged in almost any conversation you want. So.
All right, well, thank you, Scott. We will move on to Carmen, the newlywed in Florida. I saw that ring on your hand, Miss Carmen. How are you? Yay, congratulations.
Well, hello, everybody. I am a new resident of Florida. I have always been California Carmen, so I am adjusting to the humidity as well, Deanne. I work with a program called the Vet Assist program. We are a funding source for home care for low-income veterans. I would say my most common question is, how are we supposed to pay for home care? And because I get that question so much, I've been at this company now for 10 years, I made it like my mission to find additional funding resources for seniors. So not just veterans, but everybody. So I try to get to know everyone and what they do. And I think reverse mortgages have such a bad rap, but they are one of the best resources to pay for care. I work with people who sell their life insurance policies to pay for care. I mean, there's so many options out there that I don't want people to feel like they have to be forced into some kind of institutional living. I know that there's a place for it, but my goal is to help people stay home. So becoming a part of this group, National Aging in Place, it just fit right in with my life's mission. So I love it here. I'm also a board member. I have been a pleasure to be with these people, but it's also such an honor to be a part of that book that we all got to participate in. I cannot wait to see it. I want to read it myself. So yeah, that's just me. It's what I do. That's why I'm here.
Well, thank you, Carmen. And my friend in Orlando said she received your messages. She just hasn't had a chance to call you back yet. I'm hooking Carmen up with the Veterans Advisory Council Committee of Orlando, the mayor's group.
Your friends, I didn't know your friend's running for a spot. And
She is. They're in pre-elections 2 weeks. She's been my best friend since high school, and she's going to shake some things up. My one friend's running for city council, the other for mayor, and they've got a pretty good shot of winning, which means good for NAIPC in Central Florida, because we're going to do what we did in Las Vegas and St. Cloud, just kind of on a smaller scale. So
I love it. She's
about
a
that.
doll. So we're scheduled to meet on the 25th. So thank
Oh,
you.
good. You did connect with her. Good. Perfect. Okay. And we'll move over to Steve. Steve, I think you're famous. Anytime I talk to someone about music and seniors and older folks, they all know your name. I met someone last week that knows you, so I'll let you introduce yourself and what you do.
Well, I've been out there for a while, so that's probably why. But I am also a board member, NAIPC, and a lifelong musician. I started a company with my wife about 30 years ago called Prescription Music. And it was based on my discovery of how beneficial music was and how powerful music was for people living with dementia. And for about the past 15 years, I've worked with a large home care franchise company, designing dementia care training, utilization of music in care, and developed a number of programs and put together lots of videos, recorded lots of music that's all available on SoundCloud. I have hundreds of songs there, really designed for that population. And I would say the most common question that I'm asked is, how do I get my mother, father, client, depending on the situation, to take a bath? And it's a very common issue. Anyone who deals with home care or care in institutions knows that that's the case. And by and large, the most successful method has been to find out the song that that person likes and to utilize that music, and it changes the whole scope. And I see lots of people shaking their heads because they know that it's true. So it's an amazing thing. So anyway, that's what I do in a nutshell. Thanks.
Great, thank you. We'll move over to Wayne. Speaking of people in home care, hi, Wayne. Oh, you're still muted, sorry.
I'm back now.
There you go.
Good. Well, again, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wayne Mitchell. I also sit on the board of NAIPC. I also own a home care agency up in Northern Virginia. I got into the senior care business as my parents started to age, and I found a lot of challenges that they were running into with home care, and I felt there had to be a better way. So I changed careers, and now I'm on my last career. This will take me to the end, and then I'll be calling Scott and have set up my final home. I'd say the biggest question that I get being in a home care thing is, you know, because people don't know what to expect when they bring home care in, you know, and they ask, you know, what is it you can do? What are you doing? You know, and we talk about it, the levels of care that we do, but more importantly, we talk about what the main focus behind home care is: safety and security. You know, that's the first thing we do, is keep them safe, do the best we can, prevent falls, and then everything else comes in behind that. And then also, as an author in the book, that's the question I get a lot, is that, and I think I've addressed it in the book. And the other question that people always ask is, how do you manage your caregivers? You know, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, we actually have a whole field supervisory team that goes into the homes while the caregivers are there and doing follow-ups and checking up on them instead of just sending them and forgetting about them. But again, the book, I'm excited about it. We got a lot going on, and I've got some information over to Tara right now, asking her some questions on the book. And I'm looking forward to seeing the cover tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow.
I agree.
Thank you, Wayne. All right, last but not least, we'll move on to Lina, who I know is in Miami and just renewed her membership. So thanks for coming back to join our party for another year.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I see that most of you belong to the board. I don't, but I enjoy the meetings. For me, it's very much learning I have said in the past, I'm from South America. So all this is kind of new to me. But whatever it's new to me, it's even newer to my friends or acquaintance. So when you ask what's the most asked question, it's everything. They don't even know where to start. When it gets to caregivers, where to get them, how it works with payments. I'll connect later with Carmen because I do have cases that they don't have the means to pay for that. And I do a little bit of advocacy, let's put it this way, to age in place through home safety assessments. Be proactive to try to stay home and healthy just for, with simple things that you do in your house. And and this is where I'm here because all of you have lots of things that I can learn from. So that's about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I know we don't have a chapter in your area, but I always
No.
enjoy seeing you on the call. So thanks for joining us. And
Okay.
hopefully we'll get one soon down there. We're working on it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
All right. Well, without further ado, I will turn it over to our guest today, Ellen Goodwin. I kind of fell in love with her app before I even used it. And then when I actually did use it, I had a great time with my mom, learning stories that I had never heard before and things that I thought were one way that actually weren't. And I now have her voice on the app telling me stories that I'd never heard before. And it was a great experience and time spent with my mom. So thank you for giving me that. And I will turn this over to Ellen. I'm going to hit live transcript so it'll pop up. And then I'm going to hit broadcast on Facebook. So you're going to get another message. So sorry about that, but I'll do it as fast as I can. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ellen. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, it's my pleasure. Thank you all for letting me join. I know I'm the outsider here, but I will tell you, I had a parallel with Lina in terms of, the number one question I would get is, where do I start? And that's because at Artfcts, what we're talking about today is stuff. We all have a lot of stuff we intentionally or not collect and accumulate over life. And for a lot of us, I think we want to get people away from the guilt factor of stuff and what it represents in our lives and our histories and our stories and our memories, because stuff can't talk, but we can. And it's also a factor, we went through as Artfcts and worked with the AARP Innovation Lab. And what we had to keep saying over and over to folks is, I don't care if you're 8 or 88. We all have imperfect memories. We just do. I don't know what I had for breakfast yesterday. It's just the reality. And so we really are encouraging people to have a fresh breath when it comes to their stuff, not feel the guilt, but feel the joy and the memories that stuff captures for us. So anyway, thank you for having me here. By way of background, before I start sharing, like a lot of you, it's a little unconventional how I got into this space. My background is actually from the CIA. So my co-founder and I met there and went through training together at the agency. We were both PDB briefers, and we had very unconventional careers at the agency, but what it did was it reinforced the value of information and stories and security and privacy. And that's something that we've taken with us in this new career of ours as we've reunited at Artfcts. And the impetus, like all of you, was something very deeply personal. My co-founder's mother passed away unexpectedly about 5.5 years ago. And the reality is, while she had all of her financial affairs in order, there was still the matter of all the stuff. So there was an estate worth of stuff. And what do you do when it just says divide equally amongst my children? And the reality is they didn't care as much about the stuff as they did about the stories that were lost in the process, and the fear factor, the paralysis of, will we get rid of something that's a piece of family history or her history, and we just don't know. So there was that paralysis and that burden that shifted from one generation to another, when instead the stuff could have brought a lot of healing and joy and memories, but it can't talk. And we talked about this recently too. I'm sorry, A picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't know, because they can sure create a lot of mysteries too. So with no further ado, I'm going to actually go ahead and share my screen, and I will show you artifacts. So we have, let's see, hopefully we are just about next week to celebrate our first birthday here at Artfcts. And the idea here is we all have stuff, as I told you. It doesn't matter if you're working with babies and children, or you're 88 and traveling the world still and vacationing and, you know, collecting mementos. But the idea is that we can take those stories and memories, all of that stuff, and bring them together. And this is something that we like to call human media 1.0, right? So as you create your artifacts, your personal collection, all of your stories, it's all private by default here. But what's moreover is we want your artifacts to do not only the heavy lifting of capturing all those memories and stories, but more. And so we'll talk about that more. Everything here is searchable, downloadable. You can share it privately or publicly. And we give examples of this right here on our website. You know, people might be travelers. This is my mother. I saw this old photo and I called it out. I said, no way, she doesn't play tennis. What is this photo doing? And guess what? I got my father to tell the story, and I attached it to the artifacts. So I actually had the story as well as my father on video telling the story. So it's a really cool thing. Every artifact is some combination of photo, audio, video, your choice, but it can tell that whole story. Here's the recipe. Here's mom making it with the secret step. And here's the story about when we would, you know, make it every Christmas. But the idea is it's all here and safe and secure. But that whole, it lets you get stuff done, right? So as Tara said at the beginning, you create the artifact, you've got that memory, you even have that time together. And we have a lot of folks that artifact together intergenerationally. It's grandma telling granddaughter the story as they create the artifacts. It helps with people who are having 24/7 home care providers in their home, and they're looking for activities to do together during the day and engage in a very happy fashion, right? You can create one artifact in 30 seconds, or you could spend an hour artifacting together. But it's a really neat way to then take these artifacts, share it with family and friends, and help that loved one who's homebound for some reason be able to connect with the world outside. We also see it happening a lot in the downsizing process. It's very emotional, right? We feel guilty, we feel attached, we feel a lot of things when it comes to our stuff. For whether you're actually going to rehome items or donate or sell, or maybe you're going to put them in storage, if you artifact them first, it can make all of those processes easier. Especially folks recently have been coming to us and saying, well, we're putting it in storage, but I realized, oh, when I create an artifact, I can write down the dimensions. And I'll know later if I'm going to ship it back out or sell it, how much space it consumes. So things like that, it makes life a little bit easier in this process. We also have a lot of folks that will create artifacts and then send them to their insurance agent or to the estate attorney and add them to a will. And these are not necessarily like $1 million paintings here, right? This bracelet I bought in a market when I was on a first vacation in Miami, and it's special and I want my daughter to have it, right? This is for everything that you think is valuable, right? It doesn't have to be valuable to everyone else in the world. So we do feature a lot of different content, and we talk about how we handle artifacts, and mostly this comes from folks that write to us at Artfcts, and they have their own stories to share. It's maybe the greatest gift, being the founder, is to receive all these emails. We had one woman ask if she could be in a commercial when we start doing commercials, because she has 3 adult sons and she creates artifacts and she shares them with them. And then guess what happens? They call. And that's what she wants, right? She's like, great. I sent him his old report card in an artifact. And I said, you were such a horrible student. How have you been so successful? And he picked up the phone and he called her and he's like, let's get the record straight, right? But we get all these stories, and it's a fun way for people to engage. And we share them here in our articles, and they're accessible to you. I'm actually going to pop into my own personal artifacts collection with a disclaimer. It's highly eclectic. I think I, as the founder, get to have an eclectic artifacts collection. So please forgive me in advance, but I will show you what a collection can look like. So I'm just going to click on my little icon over here. As you create artifacts, you can have a custom banner, or you can actually have your artifacts create your own banner. You can see I was recently on a kick with my daughter starting back at school, and I was capturing her first days of school. As Artfcts' first birthday is next week, I also artifacted my own first birthday, and I had my parents actually come in and contribute to my artifacts. So my mom wrote a little bit about what I was like when I was 1, and my father also wrote a little bit. It's a great way to collaborate, because I certainly don't remember being 1, but I asked my parents and they could add to this, and that was great. So I have an eclectic artifacts collection. I also do have a lot from traveling. For example, I went to Cape Cod, where my co-founder is from, and we had a great trip, and I artifacted items that I bought there. I have, my grandfather's ring that I had mentioned to you all. So I have different views of this ring that I took, and I told the story about it. I actually privately even included his obituary there, because I wanted to make sure I didn't lose track of that document. And it was just kind of a comprehensive artifact for myself. But every artifact, is very personal, right? I have a lot of recipes that I artifact because I use them all the time, and I would like them wherever I go. So I artifact things like recipes. I also artifact stories that people send to me. My father, one day, I was asking about my great aunt Eleanor, and it turns out she's my great aunt Eleanor. And he wrote me this whole email about her. And I was like, it's going to get lost in email. And what am I going to do? I want to share it with my siblings. So I artifacted this crazy story about my aunt Eleanor, and that my father had emailed me. And I put it here so I could share it with my siblings. You can see it's only viewable to select users. I shared it with my siblings, but I could share it if I wanted to others. I can even post it in social media if I wanted to. The other thing about artifacts that I mentioned earlier is you can include documentation. This is really, really valuable for folks who want to have the provenance recorded. Maybe you have a receipt, or you have a warranty, or a certificate, or an appraisal, things like that. All of that documentation can be here, centralized, for you to have easy access. So for example, I bought my daughter a ring when I was traveling in Brazil, and this ring is here artifacted, and I have the documentation with the warranty and the appraisal report. And I also have it categorized under family heirlooms, because I plan to, bring it down. These are all clickable. I can click and see if I've categorized anything else as heirlooms. But it's here. And more importantly, as I mentioned earlier, I can also export it. We wanted to not hold people hostage. If you want to take things back out, you should be able to take things back out, right? So lawyers and insurance agents, they like Excel, right? A lawyer loves nothing more than just give me an Excel with all the details and I'll stick it in the will. If it's something like I might be selling it, but I don't want to give them access to the artifact for some reason, maybe you download the PDF and you give it to someone and you share that document. You can email it to them, or you can use a zip file. The zip file actually returns everything you uploaded. And this is really, really important. What I've discovered now that I run a tech company is a lot of platforms where you upload your photos, they will compress them and make them smaller. This is really bad if you ever want to blow them up or reprint them, because the quality is degraded. And sometimes even cloud storage will do that. They'll just slowly make it smaller over time. We don't do that. Whatever you upload, we're going to return to you if you want to export it into a zip. So you want to, reprint those photos, you want to share those videos, they're here and you can take them back out. We also have QR codes, which have been used in a number of ways that we hadn't expected, which is the beauty of creating a product like this. So the original story behind having a QR code requirement is we had a grandmother tell us that she was downsizing, and her son was there helping her, and he was very aggressively helping her and saying, "Hey, Mom, this vase is ugly. I've always hated it. Let's get rid of it." And she, in this case said, "Freeze." I got it from the King of Bhutan and I'd like to keep it. It's a piece of world history. But how would we know if we don't share these stories? So she created an artifact. She printed the QR code and she dropped it inside the vase. And now anyone comes across her vase, they scan the code and up pops the story. You can also attach it to boxes of sentimental items. You can put it on the back of a framed picture. You can slide it inside. We had a woman that artifacted a beautiful baptismal gown that is 150 years old, and it came from a wedding gown that was deconstructed. And she attached the QR code to the back of the box where the baptismal gown has now been preserved. So now someone is like, well, they took the time to preserve it, but what is it? Well, now they know. They can scan the QR code and up pops the story. So QR codes are very useful that way. It also is being used by a lot of artists. So you hang a painting on the wall and you have a gallery show, you can post the QR code. We also have people putting them on the back of their personal cards. If you have people that still hand out cards, they put a little QR code and it goes to their account where you can see their artifacts. On your landing page, we have other things you've looked at recently, people you're following, what's been posted publicly that's new. Again, our tips and articles. Creating an artifact, you can do it here on our platform, or you can do it from our mobile app, but it'll look pretty familiar if you're using other technologies. You can just upload things here to this space directly from your device, or if you have your files stored elsewhere, you can link those in and you can bring them into your space here. And as I said, it's super easy. You just type in a name. Sometimes I'm very playful. For example, my daughter has this hockey jersey that she loves and she now sleeps in. And so that artifact and the fact that she tried hockey, I literally named it that time she tried hockey. Sometimes it's very literal, like my mother's glasses. So you can name it. You can pick a category for what it is. You can even type to search to see what kind of categories we have. So you can add one or more categories. You can add a description, however much of a description you would like. There is no writing requirement. And this is an artifact. You can come back and edit it. This is not a one-time thing. So a lot of times we tell people, just say something. My mom gave this to me. The end. That's fine. You can always come back and add to the story. Or as I showed you, you can share an artifact with someone that knows more about it than you. I'm the youngest. People stopped telling me the stories. They were tired of telling them. I don't know. So I share artifacts a lot and I get the stories from my siblings. You can also choose then the country of origin, or you can say unknown. And my fun part is tags. You can create all the custom tags you want. They're like folders, right? So a gentleman I artifacted with last week, he's artifacting and using tags for locations his family came from. Right? So this is from New Hampshire. This is from a certain city. He's using tags that are family locations and as well as family branches. He also has a lot of tags that he's using for different parts of his career. But these are, you can put anything you want. One funny one that we saw someone do was a recipe for their mother's biscuits from the early 1900s or 20s. And the first tag is secret recipe. And the second tag is not so secret anymore. So some people are using tags to be funny, like you see in social media, but tags are really folders. If I tag everything with my daughter's name, Violet, when I click that tag, I see all my artifacts that I have tagged Violet. So it's your automatic folder system. It works really beautifully that way. So when you create these artifacts, again, they're private by default, but you can share them if you want to. And we have a robust FAQ section here that can help you out as well. You can type to search it. You can also download the entire document and have it next to you as you're artifacting if you would like to work that way. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. And I've spoken too much, I realize, but I would like to invite any questions that you have or case examples or inspiration of what you might like to artifact.
Go ahead, Stacy.
First of all, I love this.
Isn't it great?
Oh my gosh. I can think of a million uses within my family, from my son, from my parent. Oh my gosh. I love so much about this. And one question I was just wondering is, like, for my parents, it would be easiest for me to capture if they could actually dictate the story and I could capture it like that. Is that a feature?
So you can do that two ways. On the mobile app, you can actually just click the little microphone and it'll do voice to text. which
Right.
clearly I don't enunciate because mine is always full of typos, but you can do voice to text that way. The gentleman I mentioned earlier, who I met with on Friday, he has lots of stories. Like every item in his house has a really cool story. So he's using the voice memo on his phone, and he just creates all these voice files and he attaches them to each artifact. And that's perfectly fine as well. And it's, I mean, I like having the voice, but, and voice files are small in nature, so you can fit more than a video, right? Because these are not meant for home videos, right? This is like a video snippet or audio, but the audio can be much bigger.
I just love it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hey, Alan, this is Wayne. I got a quick question for you.
please.
Everything you're collecting, I'm sure that you've heard this question before. So everything you're collecting, I take it you're doing redundant storage?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we display too, it's a little bit different there, right? So there's what we store and then there's what we display. And that's for speed and accessibility requirements.
Right. Okay. And I take it people use this, say, as a family site, and they can put, this is what mom was doing, this is what dad is doing versus
Absolutely.
individuals. That's cool.
We have both, I would say. We have had far more family inquiries than we had ever anticipated. And we actually have a new feature that I guess I can just tell you is coming soon. Stay tuned. We have a new feature that's coming. It's twofold, actually. Well, threefold. But we are going to have invite only circles is what we're calling them, because we have a lot of family members who are like, well, I have 40 first cousins. I want to invite them all into my circle. And anyone that shares an artifact with that circle, everyone else in the circle can see it, like a group chat. And so we'll be bringing that out soon, invite only circles, as well as sharing lists. So if I'm constantly sharing with my same 5 family members, I can just click that list and I don't have to enter them one by one. So that's also going to make that easier. And the third feature that's about to roll out, which is, I think, commonplace, but how we're applying it is different, is using the @ right? If you're in Facebook or LinkedIn or somewhere like that, you can say @Carmen, @Wayne, right? And then that way this artifact tags them and they have view access to it. But we're taking that a step further, where I can do @a person, I can do @a sharing list or a circle, I can do @another artifact. So I often have artifacts that are interrelated. And so we wanted to make it really easy to be able to connect all of these people and things together.
This is Peter, have you had discussions with companies, let's say companies selling Medicare insurance, or let's say reaching out to seniors to where they can at least share a link to this or have this as an add-on or as an additional benefit as well?
We have not on the Medicare part. That's an interesting part. I quite literally right before this had a call with a company that has an app that works in senior communities, and that is a great place for us to appear. And we're looking for more of those opportunities. That is why we started with AARP in the very beginning was, we knew that this is an important place to be and for people to know. And frankly, it's core to how we even priced it, right? Like, why did we choose the pricing model we did with the low annual subscription? Why is unlimited let you give away 3 subscriptions? It's because we're trying to make sure that you can bring in people despite income levels. Maybe they don't have that money for another subscription. Maybe we just want to make sure that they can see it even if they don't subscribe, but we are looking for more of those opportunities as we grow.
Steve, I have a question. First of all, it's a beautiful looking platform, really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering who your market has been. I mean, what do you find as the age group? Is it the children of older people? Who is it?
So to date, our busiest artifactors are on the either end of the age spectrum. Our 20-somethings and our, frankly, well, you could say 65 plus, but maybe it's more like 70 plus. It's really been those two ends. And what's interesting is the in-betweens, the people that have the young kids and the parents and the grandparents that are kind of getting lost in that shuffle, and how we can help them get started artifacting when they're feeling like they're torn in so many directions.
Yeah, well, there's probably a lot of reasons for that.
Yep.
And
We're all
then
living it.
the other question I have for you is, do you have sort of some kind of enterprise pricing? And in thinking of, in my particular case, I'm familiar with the franchise home care business.
Mhm. Yep.
So I'm wondering how you do that per user, because what I find is many of these things, and I've looked at a lot of different things, I got to say yours is beautiful compared to a lot of the others. It's a little different, but in most cases, it's a cost factor for, you know, adding another subscription that they may or may not use. And so that's always been the biggest objection. So I'm just wondering if there's some way, volume pricing or some kind of thing that you do.
So maybe 2 days ago, I just sent out my first proposal on this exact point, and we're looking for pilot partners, right? And we're looking to experiment. And so we're open to it if you know of folks that would like to, because that's where we're at right now. So year one for us was really about introducing ourselves and getting out there, right? Creating a presence. And now in year two, it's a lot of these kinds of partnerships. And so, yes, we are open to it, and we're entering that experimentation phase right now.
And just one other thing, can you, one of the other issues is, like, if there's existing operating platforms that companies use, can you link up to them? Do you have the capability of, I forget what it's called?
API
to do that?
So the call before this is all API. So we'll be API integrating into another marketplace. And it's something that we're also very well poised to do. It's in the thing about Artfcts is, this goes to the security and privacy aspect, more so the security. This is 100% custom built by us. We are not using other third-party technology to support it so that we can make sure that we're controlling the security aspects of it. So that's where we also get the agility for cool API integrations and everything like that.
And I'm sorry, one more. How do you handle music, MP3 files, that kind of thing?
So when you upload, I should have thought of that, right? So when you upload, these are the formats that we accept right now. And the MP3s and all of that are just fine. And what we would say is, if you find a format that doesn't work, let us know and we can talk about it.
Okay. I'd like to have to contact you offline because I have some ideas I want to share. So, okay, thanks.
Great. Let's do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, yeah, Steve, those were great questions. And Ellen, that's what I direct messaged you about.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. And it's interesting when you go into it, because there's a lot of different avenues to go, which I know you've been exposed. And
yes,
you know, like Steve was saying about the APIs, that's things we work with now, because we have a proprietary software program with tablets we place in the homes.
Yep.
And that's where we do a lot of API stuff. So this is great. I think this is an awesome piece, and I'm glad that Tara and everybody, NAIPC brought you forward, because I don't think I would have ever found you if it wasn't for this call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe my question dovetails into that, if I could. Ellen, so part of our role within NAIPC is pretty broad, right? We hit a lot of areas. So my question to you is, have you thought or would like to pursue how we can help you in your business beyond simply sessions like this? And that's really what we're looking for in terms of how can we have more impact, and who are the right companies that we want to, collaborate with to see them be successful, because it touches on important elements. Like, we're all, the whole space around decluttering, but why do people resist decluttering, right? And so you've really addressed that, I think, head on, that really facilitates others to be able to do the work that they want to do that's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Tara's been, I think she's underselling how great of an ally she's already been, maybe. But yeah, we are definitely looking for, as we move into this year too, and we're looking at how we reach more people, part of that is helping people understand, like, we're very sensitive to the pressures to declutter and downsize and all of that. but I feel like the human aspect gets lost really easily. And I think that humanizing that process and making it less fraught is partly how we can work with you and share our learnings on it as well. So we're definitely looking for pilots are really important, right, for us, because we need people to get comfortable and familiar and make sure, look, we have certain requirements that we've built in. For example, if you create an artifact and you get, super excited and you start sharing everything into social media, that's fine. But we have locked down certain fields. The location of the artifact, the value, and the documentation are never shareable in public forums. And we did this on purpose. But the question will become, is that enough? Does that help people get to where we go? We also built in a recent feature, which is twofold. One is taking people up to that. How do you, in the conversation about reverse mortgages, how do we make sure people know what assets they have and can use that for their own good and their own care? Well, here at Artfcts, the way that looks is we've installed the feature for our members where I create this artifact. It's jewelry from my mother. Once I hit save, I see a button. What's it worth? I can click that button and it will send it to Heritage Auctions in Dallas, and they will provide a free valuation and attach it directly to the artifact. This is a point of information to help people in some areas avoid fraud. Bad actors that come in and say, these assets of yours, they're not really, I'll give you $100 and I'll take it, ease the frustration, This is another outlet for that. And this is where I think feedback and opportunities to work with members. We do Arty events. We do Arty afternoons. We're about to announce our Arty evening series. It'll be a 8-part series this fall that's free to join. We're going to do everything from storytelling to silver to whatever. But we're trying to get those engagement opportunities to make sure that this product is doing as much help as we hope it can. And so to the extent NAIPC is having, has these groups that we can pop into with events, or we can do small pilots with, we'd love to. And on a personal note, something I didn't say at the beginning, but my daughter and I, we're doing volunteering with Alzheimer's Association right now. And we're having, on the professional front, we're talking with folks in the longevity space. We even are hoping that as this grows and we understand what AI can tell us about, okay, my 88-year-old grandmother has created artifact after artifact. There's something AI can tell us if there's a deterioration in verbiage, if there is something about the behavior in how the person's using our tech. But there's also a lot that can be done about the story content and what that process is like for seniors, where we would love to be able to work with researchers who might want to use artifacts with groups that are working on memory and reminiscing and all of this. We'd like to be able to contribute to that space as well. So we will be looking for opportunities to do that for online identity and mortality as well.
So there's a model that you should look at, and you may have already. It's called Legacy Safeguard. You ever heard of this?
I don't know Legacy Safeguard. Is it an app?
It's actually, I don't know if they have no, they don't have a separate app. It's tied to them selling primarily senior insurance in a very big way. It's through a group called Integrity, which is the largest insurance broker in the country. But they started this way, exactly like this, to where they had a program called Legacy Safeguard that was really about very much what you're just talking about in terms of setting a discussion between someone and their parents as to where their important documents are located, what their final wishes are, what's their favorite memory, all their memories, that kind of thing, to where it's just opening a discussion, but keeping it in a safe place for when that person, has a life-changing event. And I see this as a marketing companion to something like that, or again, a marketing companion to a lot of what all of us do in the senior market space. So, and the feature that you're just talking about in terms of going to Heritage and getting an appraisal, and that's why people watch Antique Roadshow. Is that they want to see what something's worth and why that's a big deal. So that's really a cool feature.
And absolutely. And that is actually why not long ago, I went down and I spoke with Lark Mason from Antique Roadshow.
Hmm.
It was because I was trying to understand I was trying to see if that article is featured here, more from his perspective, because he deals with people all the time who are interested in selling things and understanding the value behind things. And, you know, the thing that I learned, it's right here, from him is that it really comes down to understanding people's motivations. It's another way that you all, as you're looking, if you're working in various parts of this industry with people who are aging in place and they're trying to understand their value of their objects and their legacies, and yet they know they need to part with items for any number of reasons, understanding those motivations and being comfortable with them and having those conversations. That's where, you know, I was learning from him, you know, what that is. And it's really true, and it's really difficult substance, but I'm hoping that through Artfcts, we can diffuse some of that and make it more of a pleasant experience, a story sharing experience, and get over some of those hurdles naturally.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, my motives aren't pure. I'm in the reverse mortgage business. I'd rather see them take the equity out of their house and keep what they have rather than sell it to raise more money. If they're selling items like this, it's indicative they have bigger problems.
Absolutely. And that's where we talk about it. Like, what is that motivation? And how can, that's part of that discussion. How can we solve for this scenario?
This is absolutely beautiful. So for me, several perspectives here. First of all, today is 7 months ago that my mom was in the ER, and I was just days away from saying goodbye. And we had nothing like this. And I had 10 days to clear out her apartment. And I'm looking at all these things, and I'm seeing memories of all the places, you know, growing up, from, you know, bedspreads to, you know, quilts. But then when I got to a lot of the old pictures, you know, the black and whites, or things that just look like they were from the 1800s, which of course may not have been possible in her case, but I wanted to know the story behind it and didn't have it.
Yep.
And this is huge. I mean, if you need a testimony, I'm a speaker, I'll be there for you, because this would have solved so much of my pain. And at the same time, I'm actually a mindset mentor, and I do it with businesses as well as personal. And what I see with this is maybe even partnering. I'll talk to you after. I do the mindset of seniors in some of these senior communities with their marketing reps, because they don't understand that seniors don't want to downsize only because in their mind, they're losing all their past.
Yes.
So this right here puts value to their memories, and they're not lost, and it will be such an easier transition. So I can see this being very, very big in so many ways. I'm going to put it in my City of Las Vegas group today. This is just absolutely amazing. And I'm telling you, it would have taken away so much pain for me. I finally just healed in the last month, but for 6 months, I toiled over, did I get rid of things I shouldn't have? I had to do it so fast, and I couldn't even think straight because I was trying to do arrangements. She didn't have anything in place. And so I'm the perfect example of the why behind this. And this is huge. I wish we could have been like Tara and her mom and had my mom's voice, to have my mom's voice on these things. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've played her voicemail I don't know how many times.
My father sent me an artifact. Each artifact is like a gift. He sent me an artifact that is the last voicemail from my grandfather.
Yeah.
And he had artifacted the voicemail. And it is the only voice recording I have of my grandfather.
It's just, I can see so many things coming off of this, but from a mindset standpoint, this is huge to a human need. This
Absolutely.
is huge.
To feel valued. Our histories matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. I definitely want to talk to you personally.
Yeah, look forward to it. Absolutely.
How you doing?
You know, Deanne, it's interesting you said that, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, I'm going to date myself now. Okay. So I've got a cassette tape that my dad reading the night before Christmas to my kids when they were little. And I'm sitting here saying, where's that cassette tape?
Yes.
You know, and I'm even to this point, I'm trying to say, was it in my toolbox? Is it in a drawer? I mean, I don't know where it's at. With things like this, you're right. You're setting them in place. You're creating the files, and they're always going to be there. So I think that you're right. This is an awesome program. There's so much could be done. I'm so glad we're here.
One of the earlier artifacts, when I asked my daughter, after we launched, we introduced audio and video. And I asked my daughter what audio or video she'd want from me. And she loves Shel Silverstein, the poem books, although you have to now explain them. She's like, why is there a cord on the phone? What is that? Why are there wires on the TV that's a box? And so I artifacted the book, and it has an inscription from my mother, but she had me record myself with her favorite poem.
Twistable, turnable man. He's the twistable, turnable, squeezable, pullable.
Right. So what she wanted was me reading our favorite poem. So here it is. It's here. She has it forever. But yeah, that's exactly right.
It's funny because for Christmas, my son gave me a blank paperback book with the questions,
Yeah.
earliest memories, what was your favorite teacher and all that. And he asked me to make sure I fill it out, but that's a task to sit down with a book and start writing.
Yep.
Whereas
Exactly.
here, I could sit down, as you said, I could talk. And that's probably what he wants more than my handwriting, because he can't read my handwriting if I did it.
But the story burden is something we hear about all the time. People get stuck with, it's a project and I have to dedicate time. And you sent me 20 email reminders and now I feel guilty and I'm behind and I don't want to open the emails. We hear about that story burden so much. And that was why it was like, you can put one word, dads, how do we get you to just even articulate this thing matters to me? That was at the crux of it.
And I know you haven't talked yet about price, so maybe you could talk about that and how many accounts come with it, because it's super affordable.
I know everyone keeps saying, we had someone write to us recently and ask if it was a mistake that it was per year. And I was like very flattered. So as I said, you can start free. You can create 5 artifacts for free, give it a try. It also enables sharing. So you can share something privately, they can log in and they can see the information. Then we have 2 packages. The Lite lets you create up to 30 artifacts. So you can kind of just get started at the lower price point at $36 per year. And then the Unlimited is unlimited artifacts, and it's $89 per year. And it lets you give away 3 memberships to friends and family. They are not under your account. You're just enabling them to create an account under Unlimited. So we did that specifically to help in the story sharing in the family kind of nucleus space, however your family's defined. But that's why it exists. And obviously you can give a gift as well. There's gift subscriptions available. And then we lay out the details here. So for example, the heritage auctions, it is behind the paywall. It's for our Lite and Unlimited members. It talks about the collaboration feature, like I showed my mom and dad add to my artifacts all the time because I don't remember things. So it just talks about these features and make sure that it's very clear what's available. We also, as I mentioned, have the concierge services, which is kind of a neat thing I should tell people about. So we have the virtual, we have the concierge. People ask us, how are you going to scale this? As I mentioned, our background is in government. And so what we decided to do was go tap another branch of government, which is retired FBI agents. And why retired FBI? They already have had background checks. They already know how to interview people. And they are looking for second careers for a lot of folks, or third or fourth, right? It depends on your perspective. But these are people who are trusted and gregarious and know how to do interviews, and we can comfortably bring into a home with someone and help them get started with artifacts. So our concierge services are designed with the security and privacy in mind as well.
And the other thing that I like too is the whole assigning a value to things, the price that you can assign. That's going to be so great for someone like my mom who's split it up, but be fair about it. She can go ahead and put her value on there and solve problems.
Well, and And it's true, right? And people's value on things, let's be blunt. You might not know, and you're taking a guess. That's true. And we do it by ranges, and you can always, add documentation. But priceless is a category that's just true. And for some, that's going to be where it goes. But I do tell people, one of my favorite, life hacks from Artie members, there's two of them. One is that they might say, it's in location X, which is a front hall closet, an attic, a storage unit, an address. We have discovered, especially the genealogists, instead they're giving a folder path or a website where they're storing data, and they're saying this artifact has 50 more files, and here's the path to that information, which is super interesting. The other interesting thing that we're seeing people, or they're telling us about really, is that in the documentation, let's say you have a really cool audio. For one of my neighbors said, well, I have my grandmother telling me about this, but in the middle of it, she's gossiping about all of our family members. And I don't think they want to hear that. So she attached it in the documentation, because again, you can give someone view access, but because they won't be able to see the documentation, that audio file can stay private. And so we also see people doing things like that, where they want to be able to share it, but maybe not certain pieces of information. And so they're kind of hiding them in the documentation, which is pretty funny, and keeping the peace.
I love it. Well, we are right at 10 o'clock, right on the nose. So unless there's any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Although I do want to share that Ellen has connected us with our guest speaker for the November member meeting, which is November 18th, with Charles. I can't remember his last name. Hensley from the Keys Guild. So he has professionals who help you determine what the price is, the value of things. So he says you don't have to be an expert in everything. You just have to know where to find the expert. So he has the experts in jewelry or fine art or furniture or whatever, toys from the 70s apparently is a whole category now. So yeah, he teaches you how to find people, how to connect them with your older adults, how to connect with auction houses, or how to learn how to be one of these valuators yourself. Am I selling him short, Ellen? He was kind of an amazing person. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I know you've worked with him a lot.
No, the Keys Guild is fascinating, right? They're collectibles advisors, right? The Keys are trained to be able to go in and say, okay, that stamp collection, I'm glad it's special to you, because it really doesn't have any value. But if it's special, great, right? Or that stamp collection is crazy valuable, and here's the best auction place for it where you'll get top dollar. And so they come in and can kind of assess at that broad range and help you get through it all.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I signed up and I listened to all of his training sessions before I went to my mom's house to artifact the china cabinet, because we found some gems, I have to say, that I never would have known if I hadn't watched his videos first. So thank you for all of that. And thank you all for joining us. So unless there are any other questions, we will go ahead